Have you ever felt like your health insurance policy is just this giant maze of rules and approvals? Well, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the system that's behind that whole maze. We are decoding managed care. So it really all boils down to this one big question, right? Why on earth does your insurer have so many rules? If you've ever gotten frustrated by all the bureaucracy, I get it. The short answer is that every single one of those rules is part of this massive, industry-wide strategy to deal with one thing: the constantly rising cost of medical care. And that big strategy? It actually has a name. It's called managed care. It's the system that insurers have built over the years to try and get a handle on those soaring healthcare expenses. And believe me, it affects pretty much every single interaction you have with the medical world. So what is it exactly? Well, at its core, managed care is all about controlling how you, the person with the policy, use your benefits. The goal is super simple and direct: contain the cost of medical care. That's it. Every rule, every form, every pre-approval, it's all designed around that one single principle. Now, you're probably already familiar with the most obvious layer of managed care. Think about your deductible, that chunk of money you have to pay before your insurer even starts to chip in, or coinsurance, where you split a percentage of the bill. These are all types of cost sharing, and they're really the first line of defense in managing expenses. But it goes so much deeper than that. Right, because what you pay out of pocket is really just the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes, insurers have a whole playbook of strategies they use to manage costs before they ever turn into huge claims. Okay, here's a classic example. For a lot of elective surgeries, the ones that are planned and aren't emergencies, your plan might require you to get a second opinion. Why do they do that? It's simple: to cut down on unnecessary operations. And if you skip that step, you could end up paying a much, much bigger piece of the bill. It's a direct way to question if a procedure is really needed right from the start. Another huge one is encouraging what's called ambulatory surgery, or you might know it as outpatient surgery. Thanks to all these medical advances, a lot of procedures that used to mean an overnight hospital stay can now be done in a special surgical center. For insurers, this is a massive win because it completely avoids the huge overhead costs that come with being admitted to a hospital. Now, this next one might sound a little backward at first. Managed care programs actually push for preventive care, things like your annual physical. The logic here is pretty straightforward. Catching a medical problem early is almost always way cheaper to treat than letting it snowball into a major illness later on. It's a long-term play to keep costs down. Okay, so now we're getting into the really complex part of the system. It's called utilization review. This is where the insurance company takes a really active role in managing potentially large and expensive claims. And it's a process that happens at 3 totally distinct stages: before, during, and after your treatment. So yeah, this process unfolds in 3 stages. Before you're even admitted, there's what's called a prospective review. While you're being treated, there's a concurrent review. And then, after you're discharged, a retrospective review. Let's break down what each of these really means for you. First step is prospective review, but you probably know it as pre-certification or pre-approval. This is huge. Before any non-emergency surgery or hospital stay, your insurer analyzes your case to decide if the treatment is actually medically necessary. And here's the absolutely critical part: if you don't get this approval, the insurer can slash or even completely deny payment for everything. Okay, next. While you are physically in the hospital, the insurer is doing what's called a concurrent review. A specialist, a lot of times it's a nurse, is literally monitoring your case in real time. They're looking at how long you're staying, if the care you're getting is appropriate, and they're even involved in planning your release, all with the goal of keeping costs under control while treatment is happening. And finally, after it's all said and done, there's retrospective review. This is basically a look back, an analysis of your medical records after the fact. Now, while it can be used to deny coverage for care you've already gotten, its main purpose is really to monitor trends. The insurer uses all this data to see where costs are highest and to help them shape their future policies and rules. So let's just put 2 of these side by side to make it crystal clear. Think of prospective review, the before one, as the gatekeeper. Its whole job is to stop unnecessary costs before they even happen, by requiring you to get pre-approval. Retrospective review, on the other hand, is like the auditor. It looks back at what happened to help write the rules for the future, and yeah, in some cases, to challenge the bill. So after all that, what's the big takeaway here? Why does understanding this super complex system actually matter to you when you're the one who's the patient? All right, here's the bottom line. First,
Just remember that managed care isn't random. It is a very deliberate strategy to fight rising costs. Second, you are an active part of this system through things like your deductible. Third, all those rules like second opinions and pre-certs, those are the tools of that strategy. And finally, you gotta understand that the whole before, during, and after review process is how your insurer actively manages not just the payment, but the actual delivery of your care.
And that leaves us with a really critical question to think about. The entire system is built to control costs, but when you do that, you inevitably start to exert control over care too. So as you navigate all of this, the real question becomes, where is the line between cost control and care control? Understanding how this system works is the absolute first step to being your own best advocate within it.